Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Guitar Underground. I'm your host, Neil Santos. And today we are talking about the art of the slow burn guitar solo. You know the one I'm talking about that starts, it's just a murmur at the beginning of the solo, and it's very quiet. By the end, it's ripping the soul from your body and transporting you to another dimension. I think we've all been there. We've all heard those solos. So, think of this. A lot of guitar players think that great solos are about speed and complexity, or fitting in as many notes as possible. But the solos that people remember most usually do the opposite, right? The hardest thing for an intermediate player isn't learning more licks. It's learning how to make the listener want the next one, the next note, the next lick. Anybody can play fast for like 10 seconds, but building tension slowly over the course of the solo, that's hard, right? Best solos are like a great suspense movie. If the action it starts at 100 immediately, like there's nowhere to go. You know, like you won't be able to watch the whole thing. You get bored. Even a movie like Crank, if you ever see that Jason Statham movie, which is awesome, the whole premise is he has to keep his heartbeat at a certain intensity and level through the whole movie, or else his bomb explodes right in his chest or something. But even that has dynamics as far as intensity goes. There's comedy, there's action, there's chasing, there's emotional moments. So even that had its nuanced moments or whatever. So the slow burn, it creates emotional investment in the listener. They start this journey with you and they take it all the way to the end, and you're keeping them enraptured. Is that the word? Throughout the whole thing. They're like right in the palm of your hand. Imagine you're talking to someone and every sentence they're yelling. You just stop listening. If everything, as soon as they say, I'm Neil, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is too much. Or when, you're talking with your buddies and you're just kind of going back and forth and you're riffing, and it keeps getting more funny and exciting. That's what you want your solo to be. And at the end, you're rolling on the ground laughing or whatever in tears. So, today we're going to look at 5 ways a solo can slowly burn to a fiery inferno, and 5 actionable tips to help you practice this sort of soloing today. So, if you're into practical guitar conversations like this, stuff that actually helps you feel more confident when you're improvising, make sure you subscribe or follow the Guitar Underground so you don't miss any future episodes. All right, let's get into it. 5 reasons a guitar solo can be considered slow burning. All right? Guitar solos feel like they're going somewhere when they're slow burning. A slow burn solo has direction, right? It starts simple and gradually increases intensity. That's what we're talking about, in case you don't know. Most players accidentally start at the emotional peak. They come out of the gate hot, like riding a bull. They let that gate down, they're just like then where do you go from there? You immediately launch into your fastest pentatonic runs or fastest legato sort of things. And halfway through the solo, you got to kind of slow down. And if you've ever driven on the highway, and if you're anything like me, it feels better to be continuously going a little bit faster than slowing down, right? You're just driving at normal speed limit, and maybe you're just going a little bit faster. Eventually, you realize you're going 80 miles an hour because you're just keeping up with traffic, right? But it feels good. But then you have to, I have to slow down. You let your foot off the brake, the gas, and it's like, I don't know why, but that just feels bad, right? I don't know if it's because your organs are hitting the front of your body or whatever. I don't know the science behind it. Science is why. But yeah, it's the same with the solo. Like you're going fast, the energy's high. To dial that back now, it just feels weird, right? It doesn't seem to make sense. Like, oh, is he falling asleep? Like, what's happened to the guitar player in the band that they just lost this sense of energy and momentum, right? Though, that being said, I did watch an interview with Joe Bonamassa once, where he was talking about something similar to this, how to approach opening a solo. He said maybe start slow, like we're talking about, but every once in a while, start with something real crazy, right, to get people's attention. But then what he did was bring it down and then build this sort of thing, so it still applies, but maybe you have to do something right up front to get the attention. If you do that, don't maintain that intensity for too long. Just do it real quick and get out and bring it down and then build it back up towards the end of the solo. All right? The goal is to create movement and anticipation. Yeah. So that is point one. Point two is space is what gives notes meaning, right? Notes feel more powerful because of the silence around them. Space creates tension, it creates groove, and it creates phrasing clarity. You know where one phrase ends and the next one begins. And it's not just like a long run-on sentence. Intermediate players can often feel like the need to fill every gap because silence feels uncomfortable, right? Because you're like, oh, I'm in the flow. If I jump off of this flow, am I going to be able to find it again? Or am I going to just hit a wall when I go to jump back in and feel embarrassed or whatever? But, try to frame it a little differently, right? Think space is part of the phrase, right? Space isn't just nothing. It's part of it. It's 50% of the phrase is what you don't play. All right. So, and when you stop overplaying and then you stop relying on those memorized patterns, because I think that's what happens a lot, is you'll just be letting your fingers go and, just feeling that part of it. But when you leave space, then you have time to think and you actually start listening to the song that you're jamming to and the other musicians. And then it allows you to react naturally in the moment, right? So that's going to help you build it up. And they'll be able to listen to you and they'll be able to, in those spaces, I'm talking about the musicians you're playing with, they'll be able to do things. They hear you stop. So then they do a little something and then you jump back in and then you stop and they do a little something. Bass player does a little something. And that's building not only the intensity of what you're doing, now you're allowing them to build their intensity at the same time. So it's kind of like a give and take, which is cool. So that's point two, leave a little space. Point three, repetition is not boring if you develop it, right? Many legendary solos repeat small ideas with tiny variations, right? Repetition creates familiarity and tension release within the listener. Like a lot of listeners are probably not guitar players, right? For the most part, depending on what kind of music you play, but a lot of times they just like music and guitar is a part of that. But as guitar players, I feel like a lot of times we play for other guitar players. You're like, oh, if I don't play something awesome here, another idea, they're going to think I'm, not as good as I'd like to think I am, So you have to keep coming up with another idea. But not really. Like when I go to a show, when I see the times that I see people react the most in the audience is when a musician is playing a same thing over and over. It seems so simple, right? Like we're trying too hard. But yeah, like I tell this story a lot, like where I went to see the Hendrix Experience, and that was just amazing. There was players there. Eric Johnson was there. Steve Vai was there. Living Color was there. Oh man, just a ton. But also Kenny Wayne Shepherd was there. And the whole time, people were just soloing like crazy, like tons of notes and licks. And everybody's like, yeah, it's cool. And, I'm sure there was a lot of guitar players there because that's like a guitar-tastic event, right? But the time when the crowd really went wild was when Kenny Wayne Shepherd came out and he just was doing this thing, something like, over and over and over. And the person I was with wasn't a guitar player. And they were going like, whoop, and everybody's going, yeah, they're freaking out more than any other time during that night, and he was able to like do that and like do this thing where he's putting his hand up and then just going like, oh my God, he's doing this thing. They were freaking out. It was awesome. But in my head, I'm going like, man, I am trying too hard. Like I am trying to come up with pentatonic licks that no one's heard, trying to put these 5 notes in some sort of order that sounds unique and like, means something and, defines me as a person. Nah, he just did the same thing over and over. And it was the way it was hitting with the band. And they were like, now they can like react to that and like, the whole band can kind of get in on it because they know what to expect. This is repeating. And so rant over, but, yeah, that was eye-opening experience for me. So, players typically feel the pressure to constantly introduce a lick every 2 seconds, but a lot of times it comes from developing one idea, and maybe he could have done, that would be developing the idea. You're keeping the same idea, but you're moving it through the scale or something, or maybe I don't know, just add a double note or something, or add in, like grab 2 notes there on the bend. Yeah, repetition is your friend. It's going to make those parts where you want to take your solo and make it more intense. That's going to allow you to do that in a way, so that's a tool you can use. So if you're starting quiet and mellow, and now you want to start ratcheting up the excitement, that's one of your tools right there. Yeah. Let me see here. Point number 4. Dynamics matter more than more notes, right? So things like pick attack, vibrato, bends, timing, and touch, those will help create emotional intensity. Even if you're not just blasting out a ton of notes, a single expressive note can outperform 10 fast notes, right? You think of players like David Gilmour or Mark Knopfler or Stevie Ray Vaughan, Hendrix, any of the greats, I'm trying, Bonamassa, Eric Gales. I'm trying to think of current guys too, so it's not just always trapped in the past. There's greats now. A lot of players today, though, on Instagram or wherever, it's all about guitar acrobatics and, like how many fast notes can you play and this stuff. So that's different. But even they will slow down at the beginning of solos and build up and stuff. But yeah, like if even take that lick, the Kenny Wayne Shepherd lick, right? If you start that quiet and then you start ratcheting up the dynamics and then you start adding, like I was saying, add the second note there, you can really get a lot out of it, if you like do something like that. So then you start quiet, maybe roll the volume back. Maybe don't, because I have to keep stopping and turn the volume. Let me start over without doing that. you could get your bends to be a little more wild rather than controlled. You know, you'd start out controlled, like, dude. Pick harmonics, you know. I had my volume kind of way down, but if you have that up, you can get some pick harmonics in there. You can get a little sloppy with it, like Jimmy Page, which I always loved. Sloppy is a dynamic that's often avoided because you don't want to sound bad. But if you use it as a tool to be like something that you can use dynamically, then it often creates like an unhinged sort of feeling in the music where it's like they're going so crazy. They're not even worried about, you know, playing properly. They're just feeling it, and it's just ripping out of the guitar. I love that. I love it. It's like adding a little punk rock into your playing, you know, and as long as, and you can pull it back to be crystal clean and like, you know, precise when you want to too, you know, so that adds that whole dimension, which I love. So yeah, dynamics, man, dynamics. All right. Point 5, simplicity creates listener connection. And I think we touched on this a bit here. But yeah, memorable solos are usually singable. You can play something simple that someone will sing. I think of a lot of Angus Young solos like this. And his build, usually from down here on the bottom of the neck, all the way up till he's like way up there, you know? And he does that with a lot of singable sort of licks. You can sing most of his solos. Now, I'm wondering, did they work with Mutt Lange? I know that they focus a lot. Mutt Lange focuses a lot on making sure the solos are singable. I think that's the impression I have of him. I may be wrong. But I think that's super important. Super important. And I know like on the first Guns N' Roses and a lot of Guns N' Roses albums, you can sing the solos. Like Slash is very good at that, like incorporating a melodic sort of idea into his solos and then developing that. I think of, you know, November Rain solo or Sweet Child of Mine, you know, I don't want to sing the whole thing, but it just keeps going up and up. That is a perfect example of a solo that has that slow burn, and then he kicks on the wah and that, you know. I'm not going to sing the whole thing, though I want to, but I won't subject you to that. But you know, go listen to that solo again and just see how he builds that up by using these singable sort of melodies that in the listener, you're singing it in your head. And then that first time the melody goes down, the next time the melody goes up and you're like, oh, and then it goes up a little further. And then he repeats it all again. It goes even higher, you know? I had a teacher at Berkeley. It was a composition class, and we're talking about melody and thinking of your melody in the pitch choice from low to high as almost like the narrative of a movie, right? And your solo line is your hero, and they go up, and that's like up in hope and whatever, and they go down, and they plummet, and you're like, oh, it's so dramatic. It's like the drama of a melody, and it goes back up, and at the end, it reaches this high point and it wins. You know what I mean? Like, if you think of it like that, like the note choices in your melody are the dramatic points of a story, right? And you're winning, and you go down, and like, oh, it's heartbreaking. You build it back up, and you're going up and up and down, and at the end, you're really high, or you have these big leaps in your melody, and it's just so dramatic. So that's another way you can think of it, you know. And if you can make those things singable, even better, you know. Simple playing, it lowers mental overload for the listener. They can follow it. If it's like a blistering fast set of notes, they can't follow it. They kind of go, oh, wow, that's That's wild. Like it's like watching a dancer who's doing these slow motions and then they do this crazy double flip thing where their legs and their arms are going everywhere, all akimbo, right? And then you're like, I don't know what they did there. That was cool, but I couldn't describe it. So yeah, those are 5 reasons or 5 ways that a solo can be considered slow burn. Starting low, emotionally, energetically, and all the way to high intensity, high drama at the end, and probably just launching you into the end of the song or into the last chorus or last verse, or like that drama sort of concept is like it goes all the way up high and then boom, drops out. That's always cool too. Like a really high note and then just some chords and the singer, they break it down and then, and then come back again, that's always a cool thing too. But to have that sort of rise and fall of the drama, that's just going to give you more options for your song and arrangement. So cool. Those are 5 ways that a solo can be slow burning. And now is the quintessential, the must-have, the mandatory ad read. So please bear with me. By the way, if you ever wondered why your playing feels boxed in, even though you've learned scales and patterns, I put together a really quick Pentatonic Way personality quiz over at pentatonicway.com/personality. It just takes a minute and it helps you identify the biggest thing currently holding you back, holding back your improvisation and fretboard confidence. After the quiz, you also get a free 3-lesson email course tailored to the kind of player you are, whether you struggle with phrasing, connecting shapes, confidence, rhythm, or just feeling lost on the neck. A lot of players tell me that it's helped them finally understand why they feel stuck in the first place. So again, it's pentatonicway.com/personality if you want to check it out. All right, back to the lesson. The episode. Cool. So now we're going to look at 5 actionable tips that you can use today to kind of develop this sort of slow burn mentality and practice it in your playing. All right. So tip number 1 is limit yourself to 3 notes for the first chorus. All right. So I have a little backing track here. All right. It's B minor to E. And I am going to try limiting myself to 3 notes for the first chorus. Yeah, and I'll try to raise up the excitement. And then I'd probably raise it up. I'd go to something high. But yeah, that's the idea. Let me pick another 3 notes. Yeah, all right. So that's the idea. Basically, what I'm going to follow with these chords is it's B minor, and you have E major. So I'm going to do B minor pentatonic at the 7th fret. And then I'm going to do E major pentatonic at the 7th fret. So I'd be using shape 5, which would be 7 9 7 9, 6 9 6 9, 7 9 7 9, and it goes with this E major chord. That's stuff we work on in the course, but that's all you need to know really to understand this. And what I was picking for notes for the B minor, at first I picked these two notes. 7 9, right in the middle of that. Right in the middle of that first shape of the pentatonic. And then when it came to E, I would just move this down to 6. So my 3 notes were this. And when it was on the B minor, I'd play these 2 notes. It was on the E major, I'd play these 2 notes. Right? And I feel like I had enough to work with. I could have, definitely moved on at some point, but it helped me kind of just develop ideas there. Now, for the second half, I did these 2 notes. That's 7 and 10 on the B string. That's right on that first shape of the pentatonic. And then for the E major, 7 and 9, right? Because that's in that 5th shape. So, same thing. Those are the 3 notes. I could have done something like that, or whatever. But I basically, when it was E minor, I did these 2 notes. Or as E major, I did these 2. So even though I'm using only 3 notes, I'm still getting that sense of chord movement in my phrases. But then just, repeating notes. Playing just 2 notes, dude. At first, that's perfect to start a solo if you want to start very minimalist, but you're still getting across the superpower of the chord, right? The sound of that chord with the notes you're picking, those 3 notes. So that's the idea. So, try to improvise using only 3 notes. And it doesn't have to be like a pentatonic scale switching thing like this. Use whatever scale you want. Pick 3 notes and see what you can do with them. Focus entirely on the rhythm and then the phrasing, like what order you put those notes in, and see how it works for you. What it does is it forces musicality, right? Musical thinking instead of just scale running. Get rid of those patterns. You just have 3 notes, not many patterns you can do. So you have to say, well, what can I do with this? And that's when you start thinking in a musical way rather than a physical way, right? So that's tip number 1. Use 3 notes. Wait, 3 notes. There we go. Tip number 2, leave a full measure of silence. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. I've left 2 beats of silence. I like that sort of like limitation that you could put on yourself, but a whole measure? Let me try that. So in this case, I'd only be jamming over one of the chords, E minor or E major. So let's try that. Same track. Let's see what we can do. E minor there. E. Whoops. All right, that was over the B minor, so let me try the E major. yeah, that's kind of a cool exercise. Even a full measure definitely has a vibe to it, like you definitely hear that in songs sometimes, especially at the beginning, right? This is a good tool to use to have that sort of starting point that's very low, but it makes sense and it sounds right. And it's an easy concept to keep in mind. Because then all of a sudden, if you start adding phrases over the other chord, automatically that's building excitement, right? So this, I really think about like jam bands. That's who really does this the best. That's their bread and butter, right? They have a 15-minute solo that's constantly building the whole time. So these guys are so like, this sort of playing is so ingrained in them and they're so used to it that they can do this every night and they have these sort of tricks. And I think this is one of them. When you hear like the Allman Brothers or Fish or whoever, right? The Dead, Soul Alive, I don't know. Are they still around? I think they probably are. But yeah, try this. And it didn't feel weird. I like the 2-beat pause, but then this whole measure pause was something else. A little scary. I got to be honest, a little scary there. Cool. So tip number 3 is repeat one phrase 3 different ways. So like take one lick, change the rhythm, or change the ending note, or change the dynamics, right? And why this works is it teaches development instead of randomness, right? You're going to take these things and, you have to figure out a way to make them, develop. Was that redundant? All right, let me try. Let me try it, do another one, all right? Right. So couple different options there. One was just a pretty basic bluesy thing. I tried to do something in the middle here. And that's cool. But really what worked the best is with this scale switching sort of concept is just do the same lick, right? Because it automatically changes, even if you do the same exact thing, but now you're just switching the notes of the scale to match the chord, it, automatically has new life. So you're developing it. And in that case, also developing it in a way that like you're ascending with this sort of bop, 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 bop. That's the rhythm. You maybe drop down a string. Same idea. So you develop it in 2 ways. You're switching scales, but also every time you repeat it, you start a string lower, right? And it's easy to do because with pentatonics, there's only 2 notes per scale, per string. So then you kind of bounce back and forth, it's easy to take like a melody or something like that and manipulate it. Be like, all right, just drop it down into this scale. Just do the same pattern, but move the notes. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, it doesn't have to be that sort of thing. Could be like that first one was just you could develop it by changing the last note. And then you have to resolve it. So I had a teacher, Abigail Aronson at Berkeley, that she said a thing I'll never forget, talking about phrasing. And it was so weird because she said elephants, but she said, phrasing is kind of like this. You have 4 things you got to say, 4 bars. The first one you could say, I like blue elephants. And then the next one you say, I like green elephants. And the third one you say, I like pink elephants. So they're all related. Then at the 4th one, you kind of wrap it all up. Say, did I mention I like elephants or whatever? So you have these 3 sort of related things that are a little bit different. And at the end, you wrap it all up. So it's the same thing with a lick. Play three things and then play something different. Even in blues vocals, like the lyrics, a lot of times they'll say this first thing 3 times, and then they'll say something the 4th time, right? So this is like a concept that's universal. It makes sense to people. So mess around with that. See how it goes. All right. So tip number 4, we're moving along. We have build intensity gradually every 30 seconds. All right. So structure your solo like this. So you have sparse phrases at the beginning, then 30 seconds, slightly more movement. And then 30 seconds go by, stronger bends, bigger vibrato. And then fourth groove section, 30. Excuse me. Wow, why am I talking like that now? No. The 4th section, just play faster phrases, all right? So sparse phrases, slightly more movement, stronger bends and vibrato, and fast phrases. You can fill in whatever you want here, but the idea is every 30 seconds, you're trying to move it along dynamically. So let me try that.
B minor there. E.
All right, here we go.
E.
Whoop, I went switching the wrong scale. All right, we try again. Yeah, B minor. All right, this is the idea. I feel like maybe as I was doing it, I shouldn't have got back down. I should have kept going up. And that would have been more like exciting, But I was just following my bliss as I do. Cool. So that's the idea. I hope that I was able to capture that, advancing excitement every 30 seconds or ratcheting up the intensity. Another thing that I did there, I guess, was I know that B minor and E are both part of the key of A major. So I just started messing around in that key, right? Just blasting over. Like some legato in that. Like, it doesn't matter what I play over, chord-wise, as long as I keep moving. And then when I come out of it, I try to land on one of those pentatonics. So that's the idea. Ratchet up the excitement every 30 seconds. That's another thing you can mess around with. And then tip number 5, try singing before you play. All right? We do this a lot. This is a tip for a lot of things, but it helps so much because you start internalizing in what you're going to play, and it prevents autopilot playing. It connects your ear to the fretboard. So I'm going to try this real quick. Sometimes the audio processing for the podcast, it's a little weird when I sing over the music and it's like this sort of thing. But I apologize in advance for that. Just know that's not my traditional singing voice. So here we go. That's it. Ba-dum-dum. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Da-da-da. Kinda. Here we try again. Yeah, I won't do that too much because I'm not sure how that sounds on the audio, but that's a great way to kind of do it. You don't even have to sing ahead of time. Just sing with what you're playing, because it's going to limit what you do, but you're also going to connect with what you're playing and naturally be able to kind of, doing that enough, you'll intuitively be able to play what you're thinking. And if you can think of a solo that ratchets up and is a slow burn, you're going to be able to play it, So that's another way to kind of do it. And you're going to come up with those melodic sort of slashy sort of, is that a verb or adjective? Those sort of singable licks that lead to development and lead to moving that solo forward. All right, so that was it. 5 reasons why a solo can be considered, or 5 elements it uses to make it a slow-burning solo, or also 5 tips to help you incorporate it into your own playing. So if you're following to the end, if you're still watching, thank you for watching the whole thing. I appreciate you. The art of the slow burn is really all about patience, and you guys are patient just to hear me blather on about this stuff. So I hope you got something out of it. You don't need more scales to sound musical. You just need that stronger storytelling element. If you've been feeling stuck lately, it's a good chance the answer isn't more complexity, which is a good news. It's simplicity. Sometimes the breakthrough comes from simplify and learn how to create tension, space, and intention. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Whose solo taught you the power of restraint and pacing? Who do you, I don't idolize, but appreciate that sort of thing in their solo, right? Drop a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, subscribe, share it with another guitar player who might need to hear this. And till next time, I'm Neil Santos saying keep on picking. And I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.